Okay, I think we are good to go.
You're up and running. All right. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Change School TV, our weekly dose of inspiration for your Monday mojo and mindset reset for the week ahead. So, in case you missed us last week, we had a very special guest on the show, Ezra Mitchell, who's based out of Bali, and he is a coach for emotional health and relationships. And he came on to share his personal story of change, of deciding to leave an engineering career to pursue more purposeful work. And so we had a great conversation about the positive outcome of fear. When you listen to your intuition, really focus your fear, focus on turning fear into power to reinvent how you think, what you believe, and who you are. And we also got some pro tips from Ezra around how to transform fear into focus and power. And we had a little tip sheet to go with last week's episode. So if you missed that, we'll share the link later on, as always, and you can either watch the replay or snag Ezra's pro tips for moving from fear to focus. So for those of you who haven't been tuning in the last few weeks, this month, every episode for April is all around fear. That's our topic for this month. So tonight is episode number 27, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the bigger topic of fear to really look at one of the biggest fears we hear from a lot of our students and our career shifters community when it comes to being bold or making any type of shift or move in their career. And that big fear is the fear of losing status. So tonight, Grace and I are going to talk about why we have this fear, how does it connect to the way that we personally define success and failure, both for ourselves but also as a society. And we'll wrap up with a little story and some tips for how to get over the fear of what other people think about us. So before we dive in, I'm seeing Grace's I'm ready face. So you're all set up. Before we dive in, all I'm going to shout out to those of you tuning in is, Grace has got her phone, she's ready for you. So if any of you really resonate with tonight's topic or have at any point in your life or work felt that fear of losing status, then jump into the comments, give us like a hand wave or a shout or whatever emoticon you're feeling like right now. Or just let us know that, yes, this resonates. Or you can be like, okay, no, that's never happened. And whatever you want to say, really. Grace, anything else they should be saying?
No, just say hi, I know sometimes you guys join in a little bit later and all of that, but it's always good to just let us know where you're signing in from or, who you are, because sometimes I can't see 100% who's watching live on the phone. So it's always good to see who's tuning in. All right, so shall we get started?
Yeah, let's.
Okay, so why do we fear losing status? I mean, I think Sol mentioned that it's one of the most common questions that we've heard from our students and some of our career shifters community. And, status means different things to different people. However, social status is an illusion. And when we're talking about status, a lot of the times it's this need for recognition, right? And that tends to be driven by ego and vanity, but also perhaps some of our own, experiences when we were growing up, with maybe, feeling that we need to, hey guys, sorry, I'm getting distracted now. But this is the problem when I try and look at my phone and think about what we're talking about. Hi guys, hey Days, hey. Okay, so going back to, a lot of the times when we're thinking about status or when you're wanting to talk about status, and we want to throw this out to you, is really think about what is your need. If you are feeling there's a need for recognition, where is it coming from? What is it stemming from, right? And of course, we just said that the need for recognition is driven by ego and vanity, but there's a lot of other underlying things down there that, you know, when we feel that we need recognition in something, whether it's in, you know, achieving a certain grade or achieving a certain career path or getting a certain award or whatever those things are, they can stem from so much of our early childhood years, or perhaps experiences in order to make us feel better about ourselves, right? And sometimes social status also, it's very much connected with self-worth. And there can be a little bit of a disconnect in like, okay, how do we define self-worth? What can we look at as an individual, and how can we be self-loved, but also how can we, you know, be worthy of everything that we have, right? And enjoy everything that we have without needing to get this social status or climb a ladder or get to a certain point, and still be humble about everything, right? So when we dig deeper, and, you know, when you dig deeper into your own idea about status, really think about, what does status mean to you, right? And in which part of your life or in your wheel of life is status important, or is it in everything? And is it because of a cultural context? Is it because of a work context? Is it because of certain experiences that I've shared before growing up, or whatever it is, right? But status is really a concern about how others see us. Most of the time, we feel we need to reach a certain social status in order for us to feel accepted or appreciated or part of this community, or that, you know, we might be seen in a better light by someone else, right? It's all about the other person, what they think, how they define success, how they see us as, you know, successful or unsuccessful, or how they see us as an individual, and all the things that we come with it. So really think about, you know, what does status mean to you, and what is that definition of status, you know, in which context in your life as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess, yeah, so you said it, it really depends on what context. And I guess, like Grace said, you know, so much of it comes down to definitions. And I think as a society, success and failure are sort of concepts and ideas or notions that have sort of been predefined, and we don't always realize it, but we've kind of subscribed to that definition the majority of the time, right? So if you think back to even when we're in school, right, it really makes me think of a discussion that recently came up with a bunch of international baccalaureate educators who were talking about, you know, how do we get students from a really young age to be more entrepreneurial and to be daring enough to make mistakes and to fail. And that led to a bigger conversation about, well, what do parents expect of their children by sending them to school? So from a really young age, we're taught to strive for the best grades, right? We're taught to celebrate people who go to Ivy League schools. We're taught to kind of follow a certain career path. And then if you add like the additional layer of like cultural context, right? Whether you have like Asian mom, like Grace and I do, or whatever background you come from, right? There's additional expectations in there. And we kind of grow up with believing that that's the path to success. And then when we move into our careers, we also see it in work, right? So most of us are usually striving for the highest salary, for the best position, for a promotion. We want a better job title. We want a corner office. And so oftentimes we kind of get distracted by, you know, in this context, like our professional status, right? How do other people see us? Do they see us as a leader, or are we, you know, one of the minions at the bottom? And all of that is around how others perceive you, as opposed to thinking about how do you see yourself as a professional or as whatever role you identify as. And even in the business world, right, we see it in the startup ecosystem and in Silicon Valley all the time, right? Thanks to Facebook and the other 2% of unicorns, there's this idea that status means you're a certain type of business and you've grown at a certain rate and in a certain way, right? And so part of the challenge is really being able to know that, okay, 98% of businesses fail. And so what does, you know, does it really matter so much what other people are thinking or think they see about your business? Is it more about what you know is happening behind the scenes and how you're doing, right? So I think the point I really want to make is that there's so much conditioning, right? There's so much social conditioning. There's so much conditioning that happens in our families, in our younger years as we grow up. And we really it makes us start to aspire to this like single view and single definition of what success is. And so it is not easy, but it is a journey and a necessary one to really like unlearn those things so that, like Ray said, we can learn to accept ourselves and to appreciate ourselves and to believe in our own success. And, you know, at the Change School, we really believe that the only person who defines success is you. And that the only failure in life is failing to try or failing to start something or failing to take action towards something that you want to achieve. So that's why for us, you know, losing status actually stems from measuring yourself up to someone else's standards, right? Or measuring up to somebody else's definition of success, and you're missing your own definition. And that's really what a lot of our work and our courses and our content is all about, is to help you get to a point where you know what you want, and that's your definition of success, and that's the only standard that you measure yourself by.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, you know, brings us perfectly into some tips so that you can get over what other people think about you, right? And I think, you know, it's also about embodying this and really like, you know, living and breathing it every morning. So if you're really struggling with, you know, other people's definition of success, or maybe you've had a really successful career, you know, climbed the ladder, gotten the highest salary, and you're really looking at making that shift. Or even trying something new or starting your own business or whatever it is, and that fear is stopping you from, you know, because you're worried what someone else is going to think if you do that and losing that status. Just really take these tips in and try and, you know, embody them as well so that you can be more confident in your day-to-day actions, right? And really not give a shit what other people think. So I think a lot more people need to do that. And really being unapologetically you, because at the end of the day, you know, you've got to get yourself to where you want to be, right? So we're going to share about 6 or 7 tips, but one is stop playing it safe, right? Growth and transformation will only happen when you get outside of your comfort zone and when you really try and push yourself outside of your comfort zone. And I know it's probably something you hear all the time, but it's something that we really just need to remind ourselves, because even, you know, for myself, I'm always like, okay, when you're safe, when you're at this point, you know, what else can you do? And then it's kind of scary and you're like, okay, I'll just like rein it back a little bit and stay where I am for a little bit longer until I'm really ready to push that comfort zone. So push your, you know, move beyond your comfort zone. Okay, tip 2 is prioritize what's most important to you right now. There's always going to be some type of compromise. There's always going to be some type of trade-off, right? But it just means that out of something lost, you're also going to gain something, right? With everything that we declutter, everything that we release, everything that we, you know, get rid of, there's something else that we're going to gain. And it can come in so many different ways. So ask yourself today, what do you want to gain, right? And really think and try and define the different things that you're talking about. Because a lot of times people in our answers, in our classes or in our courses, people will just answer one word. But then when we ask them to define it, it takes them a lot longer to really be like, oh, actually, what does that mean to me, right? So that's why we're always talking about define success, define this, define this, define this. The deeper you can get into it and having definitions for what it means for you, the clearer you will be in what it is that you're really wanting to gain or stand for. So tip 3 is reframe. Okay, it's always good to like reframe the challenges that you face, really looking at them as, rather than challenges, as like opportunities to learn and to grow, right? I mean, out of every negative, there is a positive as well. And it's really shifting our mindset. So mindset for us is something that, you know, we share in every episode that we have, because it really does have to start with that. And in order for us to be able to start reframing, we need to be, you know, thinking about things in a slightly different way. So in this context, success is rising to the challenge and picking yourself up when you fail, and failure is resisting to try. right? And I think, you know, something that I always like to say is failure does not live in my dictionary, only because I think that we're never failing, we're always learning, right? It's like from everything that hasn't worked or that might have worked but didn't connect with my values, or all these sort of things are just lessons, and they're things for me to learn from, and they're not mistakes, they're just lessons, right? If I looked back and I go, okay, well, I could have done that differently, but I wouldn't have known that at that time, right? So I don't feel that failure is something that lives in my dictionary, but like we said earlier, right? Failure is failing to start or try. It's just failing to give it a go, right? Just try anything that it is that you're thinking about. So tip 4 is decide who defines your status. I think this is such an important one because, you know, think back into, is it your parents that's defining your status? Is it your colleagues? Is it the work environment, the company culture that you're in? You know, is it the friends that you're around? All of those sort of things, right? Who is defining your status today? Tip 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. Tip 5 is listen to your mental chatter, right? So we all have our mental chatter. My mental chatter tends to happen in the evenings, right before I go to bed. And then I'm like, oh my God, I have all these things that I'm thinking about, and I need to write it out somewhere before I can actually go to bed. Okay. But think about your mental chatter and go, is it positive or negative? There's no right or wrong, but it's just pay attention to it. You know, listen to it, write it down, and try and take some time to reflect on it, and then just review and see how you can work through that. And that's going to be a whole nother episode that we can talk about. Tip 6 is seek advice from people who've successfully made a career change to see how they're overcoming similar fears or barriers. And if you're not in a career change, but you're finding that you're in this state of change, right, and really trying to push your comfort zones, find someone who has done something similar or is at a position that you would like to get to, whether that's with, you know, their own self-worth or their own self-confidence, whatever that is that you want to try and push through, try and find someone who has done that, right? And again, in a way that you think is successful, right? So final tip is focus on building a growth-driven mindset. I mean, we have an episode on a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, which we can reshare as well. But really, you know, everything around change and especially personal development is essential around thinking about this growth mindset, right? So focus on building a growth-driven mindset and self-confidence, because these are the qualities that are going to lead you to success, not the opinion of others, right? And no matter what, if you have those two elements, you will succeed in any shape or form. So I think that's really the most important. And if you guys have any other tips that you want to share with us, feel free to do so as well. Hey, Eddie. Sorry. So yeah, so let's just quickly recap the 7 tips, okay? 1, stop playing it safe, right? Push yourself outside of the comfort zone. 2 is prioritize what's most important from you and what is it that you want to gain. 3 is reframe the challenges into opportunities so that you can learn and grow. 4, which is the most important one, is decide who defines your status. Decide right now and review who is defining your current thought of what status means. And then 5 is listen to your mental chatter. Put your mental chatter in some journal. 6 is seek advice from someone, you know, who you either admire or who's been successful in something that you're looking at pushing the barrier of. And 7, finally, is focus on building your growth mindset and self-confidence. Hi, Twinnie. So those are our 7 tips for getting over what other people think. And the last one is very important too.
Okay, so what I wanted to do just for a moment, thanks for sharing those tips, Grace, and I just wanted to kind of share with everyone a example from one of our alumni who actually popped into one of our weekly live Q&As, which is part of our Bold Career Move course, and threw out a question around this, which is actually why it kind of inspired us to raise this topic tonight because we realize that it is really, really common. And I like how she phrased the question, so I just want to share it here. So she wrote in and said to us, I'm considering a career change and my fears are loss of status, loss of financial security, and I feel the need to be qualified in that area. I really find it hard to actually take a leap from an industry you know well and have a lot of contacts in to a new growing industry where you have very little context and lots of new young people with degrees you've never heard of. I don't really know how to make this leap. I thought it was a great question, and I only laughed. I was really endeared to some of the concerns that she raised. And I think, as I've said, it's not the first time we've heard this type of, worry or concern, and particularly when you are thinking about a really big shift in your life, but especially in your career, then this can really come up. And so I just want to share some pointers that we shared with her because we've already kind of said them tonight, but I think it always helps to give like a real life example and some context so that you kind of can really like digest what we're saying and they're not just like us talking at you. So what we said to this student was, what I think we've also said on this show a couple of times is that fear is such a great teacher and motivator for us. A lot of the times when we're feeling really ambivalent or nervous about something or a lot of self-doubt, it's actually a cue that that's kind of the direction you should be going, or there's something there that you need to dig deeper into, or there's something there that can be reframed, like Grace said. So our tendency is to run away when we're scared, right? We're like, oh my gosh, no, not going to do that, or it's not a good idea. Whereas actually the moment we step into it, that's when learning and growth can start to happen. And that's when you are challenged to go beyond your comfort zone. And that's when you really realize that it's all a choice. Your choice is, do I want to stay comfortable or do I want to stretch myself? Your choice is, do I want to play it safe so that I can never fail? Or am I willing to learn or to make a mistake and learn from that mistake? So out of challenge and comfort, you can guess which one leads to greatness and success, right? So, Grace already kind of raised this question, but again, in this context, I want to throw it out again, because this is also what we said to our student, which is, what does status mean to you? How do you define financial security? What does qualified mean to you? Because that was something she had said as well. And, as you kind of answer these questions, ask yourself, are the things that you fear, are they facts or are they assumptions? Are they real or is it just a perception? And whose perceptions are you afraid of? So another good way to kind of challenge your fears is always to ask yourself, what would happen if my fear came true? What is the worst case scenario that could arise out of this fear? And then flip it and go, what's the best case scenario that could come out of this fear? And what factors would make this outcome more likely? Because when you start thinking about what factors, you realize, again, it's in your control. These are things you can choose to do and to step into. And so the question is, like, how do you maximize those factors, right? What can you do to move the needle? So really, it is about reframing fear. It is about, shifting how we think about external perceptions and focusing instead on the internal mindset and actions that we choose to take. And that's really the whole point of this month's talks around, that journey from fear to freedom. And so in this case, some of the opportunities that we encouraged our student to kind of reframe was, okay, if you're worried about financial security, look at it as an opportunity to now learn to become a better financial manager for yourself or to get on top of your finances. And if you're worried about, being qualified, see this as an opportunity to develop knowledge or experience or skills in a new area that's clearly of interest to her on some level. And, if she's worried about all these, young millennials in there with all their weird titles and degrees, well, then maybe this is actually an opportunity to leverage on transferable skills, right? And she mentioned that she had an existing network. Your network isn't tied to a certain industry. You don't lose it the minute you shift jobs or shift roles. It comes with you, right? So it's just that slight reframing to go, how could you engage your network in a different way, come to them with a new opportunity or something that they hadn't heard of before. So I think all of these opportunities really are an invitation to take action. And that's why probably every single week you will hear us say it at least once: action is king. It is always about taking some type of action to move yourself forward, because taking action or not taking action is really the only thing that's in our control. We talked about being control freaks and how to let go of that, but the only thing we can control is the actions that we take, right? And the way that we think. So, with that, I hope you guys take away from tonight all the tips that we shared, and then also kind of just ask yourself, what is the smallest step that you can take today to reframe how you look at challenges, or to redefine success, or to redefine what status means to you, and who it matters to.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, that's, a great example. And I think it's nice, like Sol said, for you guys to hear some things, like some real, individuals with their problems or their challenges, and how we're also sharing as well, right? So, so if you haven't heard yet, if those of you that are watching the recording or all of this sort of stuff, we do have a couple of things that we want to share, but one in particular for today. And if what we share today resonates with you, or if you know that fear is a really big thing that's holding you back in life, but in particular in your career, then we have our 6-week immersive online course, which is how to confidently create your bold career move. So we're opening enrollment again soon, but this course is something that's really going to help you clarify your personal definition of career success. And we take you through a 5-step process for deconstructing who you are, what you really want from life and work, and how you can get there. And from there, we then reconstruct all the value that you already have. So your networks, your talents, your skills, your personality traits, your professional strengths, all of these things that we know we have, we just don't always review them, but we don't also know how to reconstruct them, right? We don't know how to reconstruct them to the next phase of where it is that we want to go in our career. And we do that in order for you to really understand what makes you unique, but how, most importantly, to carve a position for yourself based on the career that you want, and who it is that you want to become. Right? What it is that you want to achieve and how you want to experience your career. And we come up also with an action plan, a 60 or 90-day action plan, so that you can actually start implementing and taking action immediately and carry out that plan to make your bold career move happen and really reach that next phase of your career. So we announced it a little bit earlier this month that we'll be opening enrollment on May 14th. And anyone who is on our early interest list gets priority notification. But if those of you that are watching and you're interested and you think this is something that you want to do, just head on to bit.ly/bold career. We'll share that as well in the comments, or you can head on to our Facebook page. You'll see that link there. And our 48-hour sale, as soon as you get into our early interest list or in our wait list, you will get priority notice of our 48-hour flash sale when that starts. And we do only take a limited number of people each time, only because it is an immersive course and it's live online. We take you through this course, week by week. There's group coaching, all of these other things. And we want to try and create that intimacy at the same time with everyone that comes into the course, so that we can build that trust and that community. But you will also be joining, the rest of our alumni who have joined in the previous sessions. So if this is something that you're interested in, just head to bit.ly/bold career, and I will type that into the comments now. And then we will hopefully see you on the inside.
Exactly. And actually, if I can just take a moment to add in as well, because I think we've had a few questions on this, and I just want to maybe clarify. The course is called How to Confidently Create Your Bold Career Move. And I think the big word for us is bold. And that's also why, you know, this month's series of talks around fear is so, so relevant, and why you're hearing us talk so much about the course at the same time. Because I think there was probably some thoughts initially that, what if I don't want to change careers? What if I'm not changing careers? And I just want to take this chance to kind of clarify that you don't have to be thinking about a career change to come into the course. And that's something we've really seen after working with our past 2 cohorts, you know, because some people, a lot of students actually have come in saying, I'm not necessarily looking to leave my company or change industries drastically, but I am ready to level up my career. And I think that's really what we mean by being bold, because it's so easy, especially if you've been in the same job or doing the same type of role for a really long time, to get complacent, right? Because we get comfortable. Everything's okay. If it ain't broke, why fix it, right? And so that's why we're talking about bold career moves, because we're trying to encourage you guys to look ahead, right? To really start thinking about your future before you have to, right? It's not that you should wait till your company's restructuring or until you're burnt out or until you're unhappy to do something, because again, like we've said today, right, success is yours to define, and the standards that you hold yourself to are yours to set. And so our hope is, you know, by offering a course like this, it's really starting to make you already think, where do I go from here? Where can I go next? What's that next level going to look like for me? And with that comes a little bit of fear, right? Because it's kind of like, do I really want to shake things up right now? Everything's okay. And that's exactly why we're here yapping week to week, because we're trying to get you in that mindset that isn't shying away from fear and is already ready to start thinking about being bold in your life and in your work, and so that you can thrive. So if you have any questions about that, right? If you have any questions, just let us know. Grace and I can talk about this forever, but I just wanted to throw that out there in case that's something that you're thinking about right now.
Yeah, I think that's something we're going to talk a little bit more of, hopefully over the next, you know, few weeks as well, right? Because, you know, just the notion that a career move doesn't just mean leaving your company, right? You could carve your own path internally in an organization. So I think that's a really good reminder. Yeah, we're excited to get into. Next week is our last week.
Yes, and next week we finally wrap up the talks on fear for those of you who are just like over it. So next week we want to do something similar to this week, where we're going to take the second most common fear that we hear a lot from our students and from our career shifters group, which is around fear of losing financial security. And it's something that I think, you know, both Grace and I have experienced in our lives as well at different points of our careers, etc. And I think it's a big one that a lot of people would resonate with. So if you want to tune into that, then we will be here, same time, same channel, next Monday. And then after that, we'll reveal next month's topic.
Perfect. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. And if you want to watch the replay, it'll be up in a couple of days. Yeah, for those of you that are watching this replay, thanks for tuning in. All right, guys, have a good one.
Bye. Bye.